You're listening to Disruption Radio with Cheryl.wTf. Today's episode is called Looking for a Savior. It's brought to you by our sponsor, Hexadaisy. No minimum order quantity promotional products for small businesses. Visit hexadaisy.com for more information. That's HEXA daisy.com. I'm looking for a savior in these dirty streets, looking for a savior, but all I find are cheats. I'm stuck in the grind. I can't get ahead. My paycheck comes in, but it's gone before bed. Rent's going up, gas on the rise. Don't get me started about grocery highs. I'm looking for a savior in these dirty streets, looking for a savior among the empty tweets. When I was a kid, I was sold a dream of picket fences and a better life than my parents. I was told all I needed to do was work hard, keep my head down, and everything would be all right. Sound familiar? Now I'm stuck in the grind, hanging on by a thread. Wages are stagnant, but up goes that bread. Mortgage, foreclosure, and closure exposure. Now I'm looking for a night to come riding in, and all I find are wolves dressed in sheepskin. My great-grandfather was a reverend, and he said, God only helps those who learn to help themselves. He left my grandmother a small fortune when he passed, and she traveled the world. When I was a kid, I was sold a dream of picket fences and a better life than my parents. I was told all I needed to do was learn to help myself, and everything would be all right. Now I'm stuck in the grind and filling with dread. The bills keep rising, but not my paycheck instead. Now I'm searching the crowds for a hero, scanning the faces, bank account at zero. My grandmother was a sea captain. When I was a kid, I told her that someday I would be president. She said, you can be anything you want to be. When I was a kid, I was sold a dream of picket fences and a better life than my parents. I was told all I needed to do was work hard and dream big, and everything would be all right. Lost my insurance because my husband got hurt. Now I'm stuck in the grind and covered in dirt. Rent's going up, insurance a joke, needle tears a hole. I just can't cope. My great-grandfather was a humble mechanic who ended up an engineer for NASA. He said, you could be a good mechanic by using your hands. You could be a craftsman by using your head. But to be an artisan, you must use your heart. When I was a kid, I was sold a dream of picket fences and a better life than my parents. I was told that all I needed to do was work hard and follow my heart, and everything would be all right. Now I'm digging through trash for a leader, digging through garbage and finding mouth breathers. My grandfather was an entrepreneur and a local politician who came from nothing and supported 5 kids and a stay-at-home wife in a large suburban home in a nice neighborhood. While handing me the Sunday funnies, he said, remember their faces, remember their names, make them feel seen, and they'll give you their money and their votes. You can have your ice cream and eat it too. When I was a kid, I was sold a dream of picket fences and a better life than my parents. I was told all I needed to do was give, and I would receive, and everything would be all right. Now I'm stuck in the grind, too thin I'm spread. Retirement? What's that? I'll work till I'm dead. My father was adopted and a military veteran who worked in a computer server room at a large corporation. My mother had me at 18, but got a computer programming degree from night school. Eventually, they bought her childhood home, the one that held 5 kids, and a vacation home. They said, be a good girl. When I was a kid, I was sold a dream of picket fences and a better life than my parents. I was told that all I needed to do was follow the system and everything would be all right. So I was a good girl who worked hard, kept my head down, learned their faces and their names, followed my heart, used my head, used my hands, dreamed big, and learned to help myself. They told us what we want to hear. Just hold tight, trust the system, it'll be all right. They sell us dreams, but what's the reality? Favors for rich, scraps for you and me. My paycheck comes in, but it's gone before bed. They sold me a lie and tell me it's all in my head. Promises, slogans, it's all just flapjack. We're paying their way and they ain't paying it back. Now I'm looking for a savior in these dirty streets. Looking for a savior, but all I find are cheats. But here we are in a world that feels less stable every day. Living in a world where we can't do better than our parents and their parents before them. Asking the question that haunts so many of us, will you be the one to fix this? We're searching for a savior, aren't we? A knight in shining armor come riding through the darkness to sweep away the chaos and bring order, hope, and stability. Politicians, advertisers, talking heads, they soothe us. Tell us we're doing great and that our struggles are temporary. And the next leader, the next policy, the next election will be our answer. And it's nice, isn't it? Believing that relief is just around the corner and that someone else has the plan and that we can just wait for our savior. We cling to the notion that someone up there, a real knight, a true hero, will rise to fix things. But what if our knight never arrives? What if we're searching the horizon for a shining figure that was never meant to come? We have been on this quest a long time, and so far, every knight has shown up without the armor, each hero without the courage, and every fix more destructive than the last. So let's talk about that. The truth is darker. The truth is harder. The truth is what we need to hear. There is no single hero, no knight with a magic sword. The forces that keep us struggling aren't bound by election cycles, and they do not answer to those political promises. We're stuck in an endless loop, searching for the easy fix and ending up right where we began, time after time. The savior is a myth. Not only is no one coming to save us, no one person can save us. Anyone who tells you otherwise is selling you a lie. But here's the truth, loud and clear. This decline isn't accidental. The widening gap, the rising costs, the instability, the debt, they're the result of a system that has been built to serve a few, to keep the wealth moving in one direction, and that's up. The reality? The fat cats have been dismantling the systems that made this country of upward mobility for decades. They've done it on purpose. It's not a mistake. They know exactly what they're doing. The system is working exactly as it was designed to. Keep the rich rich, powerful in power, and the fat cats perpetually getting fatter. We're looking for a savior in these dirty streets, looking for a savior, but all we're going to find are cheats. We're stuck in the grind and can't get ahead. The paycheck comes in, but it is gone before bed. They call it trickle down, but it's a drought. Rich stack in billions while the workers miss out. Wages stay flat, profits soar high. They say we're lazy, but that too is a lie. Behind the scenes, taxes get cut for those who got yachts while we're stuck in a rut. Rich stacking billions, we're breaking our backs. They give us pennies and hand us the axe. Jobs shipped out, debts piled tall, ladder to success. Where's our damn windfall? Now I'm stuck in the grind, too thin I'm spread. Retirement? What's that? I'll work till I'm dead. The anger we feel is real and it's righteous. But that anger has been hijacked. They tell you it's the poor that got you down. Say it's immigrants wrecking your town. Point fingers at strangers, stoke that fear. But who's been pulling the strings all these years? We're told to look at each other with suspicion. At immigrants, at the poor, at the LGBTQ, at minorities. We are told to point the finger at each other. And while we're busy casting blame, the true culprits sit unbothered, untouched, far from our grasp, grinning like the Cheshire cat as they rake in billions. It ain't the ones with nothing to show. It's those at the top raking in dough. While you're busting your back, working for scraps, they're counting their millions and filling the gaps. They got you looking down. But here's the deal. Look up, my friend, to see what's real. This game they played it well, a classic trick straight from hell. A sleight of hand, a magic trick. Why do we fall for this shtick? The ones who bleed you dry each day are suited, booted, and hiding away. Here's the truth we need to face. If we want change, if we want a shot at pulling ourselves out of this mess, we need to stop waiting. We need to stop waiting for someone else to save us. We have to stop falling for the illusion that a single policy, a single person, a single election will turn things around. It won't. Real change will come from us, ordinary people united in purpose and unwilling to wait any longer. It's about standing up, standing together, and no longer accepting the scraps while the few feast. If we want knights, then we need to pick up our own armor. We need to become the heroes of our communities. We need to challenge the systems, the narratives, and the forces that keep us divided and distracted. And it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be fast. But it's the only real solution to a problem that's been polished and packaged and spun and sold to us as unfixable. We are looking for a savior in dirty streets, looking for a savior, but all we're going to find are cheats. We're stuck in the grind and can't get ahead, and the paycheck comes in, but it is gone before bed. Blaming your neighbor, casting the stone while the fat cats sit on a golden throne. Point fingers at strangers, stoke that fear, but who's been pulling the strings all these years? It ain't the ones with nothing to show. It's those at the top raking in dough. The ones who bleed you dry each day are suited and booted and hiding away. We're looking for a savior in these dirty streets, but the saviors we need aren't the elites. We're stuck in this search, in this loop, looking for everyone but ourselves for a fix. But maybe, just maybe, the answer isn't in finding the one. Maybe the answer is in becoming one. Becoming one with your fellow Americans, regardless of the color of their skin, regardless of who they love, regardless of the job that they work, regardless of the clothing that they wear, just your fellow American, becoming one. Let's stop the cycle of abuse. Let's end the search. Let's end the blame. Let's rise together with no more illusions, no more empty promises, and no more heroines to soothe the pain. It's time to reclaim what's ours. The point isn't about finding the next savior. It's about becoming the kind of collective force that demands change and doesn't stop until we see it. We're looking for each other in these dirty streets. We're done with the tricks. It's time to seize the treats. No more waiting, no more hoping for someone else to do the work. Individually, we are a drop, but together, we're an ocean. It's time to make some waves. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, that sounds great, but how do I do it? I do not have all the answers. But let's start closest to home. Let's start by talking about our problems. Let's start by educating ourselves on the real causes of those problems. Let's start by calling out the people in our lives who are acting badly, the people who are contributing to divisiveness, who are continuing to blame the wrong people for their problems. Let's start there. Talk to your friends, talk to your family, have those hard conversations and help them see where they need to place their anger. That's a good start. Beyond that, look to your community. What organizations are out there making a difference? Join them. Volunteer if you can, donate some money if you can, get involved, and do some education before you go to the polls next time. Learn about who you're voting for. Make smart choices. Don't believe everything they tell you. Do your research. And vote out the incumbents. Because the longer they're there, the more entrenched they are in that elite world set on stealing from us. So regardless of political party, vote out the incumbents. Get rid of them, put in someone new. That is your best bet for change. People have been there for a long time. They are not going to change a damn thing. So that's a few action points for you. And stay tuned. I'll try to come back to you with some more. Thank you so much for your time. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. This has been Disruption Radio, and I am Cheryl.wTf.